The painting is called Lady with an Ermine, and it was created by Leonardo da Vinci, one of the greatest artists the world has ever known. Unlike loud and dramatic paintings of kings and battles, this artwork is quiet and personal. It shows a young woman turned slightly to the side, as if someone has just called her name. In her arms is a white ermine, a small animal that looks gentle but alert. At first glance, the scene feels simple. But nothing in this painting is simple. Every detail was planned, every look carefully chosen. Leonardo painted this portrait during the late 1400s, a time when most women in art were shown as symbols, not real people. But this woman feels alive. Her skin is soft, her posture is natural, and her expression is thoughtful. Leonardo used light and shadow to give her depth, making her look almost real. This was new for its time. Paintings before this often felt flat and stiff. This one felt human. That is why art experts say this painting changed how portraits were made forever. The ermine she holds is not just a pet. It carries meaning. In those days, the ermine stood for purity, control, and power. It was also linked to the man who ruled the city where the woman lived. This tells us that the painting is not only about beauty. It is also about status and hidden messages. Leonardo was known for doing this. He never placed objects in his work without a reason. Even the way the woman turns her head suggests movement, as if she exists beyond the moment frozen on the canvas. Over time, this painting became one of Leonardo's most valuable works. But value can be dangerous. As centuries passed, wars broke out, cities fell, and powerful people wanted to own symbols of greatness. Art became a prize. Paintings like Lady with an Ermine were no longer just art. They became trophies. This is where the story begins to darken, because when power meets beauty, someone always tries to take control. By the 20th century, Europe was once again on T. Berlin was not just a city during the war. It was a vault of secrets. Behind broken streets and loud speeches, something far quieter was happening. Paintings were being hunted, packed, and hidden like weapons. Among them was Lady with an Ermine, a painting so valuable that its beauty became a risk. In Berlin, art was no longer about culture. It was about control. As war spread across Europe, powerful leaders understood one thing very clearly. Art shapes history. Whoever owned great art could claim greatness itself. Berlin became a center for this obsession. Museums were emptied, private collections were seized, and famous artworks were taken from their homes. Some were moved for protection, but many were taken for pride. Paintings were locked away in dark rooms, underground bunkers, and guarded buildings far from the public eye. The leaders of the time believed these artworks proved their power. A painting by Leonardo da Vinci was not just rare. It was a symbol of genius, intelligence, and superiority. That is why Lady with an Ermine was treated differently. It was wrapped, transported, and guarded with extreme care. But every move made its future more uncertain. One wrong decision, one bomb, one fire, and the painting could vanish forever. The leaders of the time believed these artworks proved their power. A painting by Leonardo da Vinci was not just rare. It was a symbol of genius, intelligence, and superiority. That is why Lady with an Ermine was treated differently. It was wrapped, transported, and guarded with extreme care. But every move made its future more uncertain. One wrong decision, one bomb, one fire, and the painting could vanish forever. Berlin became the place where many stolen artworks passed through. Some stayed hidden there for years. Records were destroyed. Names were erased. Paintings were renamed or listed as lost. After air raids, buildings collapsed, and with them, secrets disappeared. Even though the painting traveled through danger, the woman in it has a story all her own. She was Cecilia Gallerani, a young noblewoman from Milan, living in the late 15th century. On the surface, she seems calm, poised, almost untouchable. But behind her serene gaze lies a life full of intelligence, influence, and secrets. She was not just a pretty face for a painting. She was a key figure in a court full of politics, power struggles, and ambition. Cecilia was the mistress of Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, a man who shaped the lives of everyone around him. Her connection to him gave her influence few women of her time could ever dream of. The ermine she holds in the portrait is more than a pet. It was a symbol of purity and loyalty, but also of her own cleverness. In a court that demanded obedience and strategy, Cecilia knew how to use her intelligence to survive and even thrive. Leonardo captured not just her appearance, but her essence, her quiet strength, and the subtle power she held. What makes her story remarkable is that, unlike many women of her era, she left traces of her own choices. She was educated, witty, and ambitious. Her portrait was not a decoration, it was a statement. Every detail, from the way she holds the ermine to the faint hint of a smile, shows a woman aware of her own value, her own power. In a way, the painting became a witness to her life, preserving her identity for centuries even as history threatened to erase it. But the journey of Cecilia's image did not end in Milan. Through centuries of movement, theft, and war, her portrait would pass through hands that did not understand her story. It became a prize for collectors and thieves, valued for its artistic mastery rather than the woman it immortalized. Yet despite this, Cecilia's presence remains unshaken. The gaze she holds across time continues to tell her story, a reminder that even in chaos, identity, intelligence, and quiet strength cannot be erased. After centuries of careful creation and survival, Lady with an Ermine entered one of the most dangerous chapters of its life: disappearance and the search that would span decades. As the painting traveled through Europe, it became more than art. It became a symbol of power, ownership, and mystery. During wars and political chaos, tracking its location became nearly impossible. Berlin, once a center of control and collection, became both a refuge and a maze for stolen and hidden masterpieces. At some point, the painting vanished from public view. Museums, collectors, and historians all searched for it, but records were scarce or destroyed. Rumors circulated about secret bunkers, private collections, and even thefts by powerful individuals who wanted the painting for themselves. Some claimed it had been destroyed in air raids, while others whispered that it had been smuggled out of the city to protect it from war. Each clue seemed to lead to another dead end, and the painting's trail became almost legendary, a ghost that haunted historians and art lovers alike. The search was not only about the painting itself but also about uncovering history. Every investigation into its disappearance revealed stories of lost families, stolen art, and cities struggling to recover after devastation. Berlin, with its complex past, held answers hidden behind walls, archives, and memories. Art historians had to piece together letters, photographs, and eyewitness accounts to reconstruct the journey of the ermine and the woman who carried it. Each fragment brought them closer to understanding how far this artwork had traveled, and the risks it survived. Finally, decades later, the painting reemerged. Its rediscovery was not just a triumph of detective work, but also a reminder of the fragility and resilience of culture. The Lady with an Ermine had outlasted wars, theft, and secrecy, returning to the world not just as a masterpiece of Leonardo da Vinci, but as a witness to history itself.